Hey, Tammy.
Hey, thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have these conversations to get to know each other a little bit better.
Yes, and sharing, I guess, behind the scenes or insider snippets of ourselves and bits around our philosophies and the way we think. That's what juices me up in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're all here doing our thing, and unless we really get to know how we tick, how does it work? It's getting into that nitty-gritty, the deep stuff.
Yeah. So, what makes you tick? Like, this is a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all about being here to make a difference. I after many, many years of deep healing and stuff like that, I really do see why I'm here and why I was chosen and that I am enough. For many, I don't know about you, Mel, but like for me, there's been so many times where you feel like you're not good enough. No one will hear you, no one will listen. However, I've learned that philosophy in my own life. And by choosing me and actually smashing that voice and getting into that deep heart space, that's been the thing that's actually helped me overcome many tragedies in my own life.
Yeah, totally agree. Like who are we? Who am I? Who are you?
Mm,
Really understanding not just how we ended up in this moment in time, but as you say, that deep heart space, because there's always a part of us that's being called to do something, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think we are unlimited, have so much potential possibilities within us, but we often, I guess, we don't even know ourselves enough to have the inquiry.
And exactly right. And do you know what happens? The universe comes in to give us these little reminders, sometimes in good things and sometimes in bad things, just to remind us to get back onto our path and to see who we are really and why we are chosen to be here and what more about ourselves.
So do you know what your path? Some people do, some people don't. Do you know what your purpose of your path is? Is that
Yeah.
clear to you now?
Yeah, absolutely. So much clarity around that. But that's come from tragedy, which has got me into this space because, like many people, how do you know what you're doing, what you're meant to be doing in your life? And you sometimes fall into things. And I do feel a lot of energy around this as well. And for myself, not feeling fulfilled in a career that I kind of fell into, it was very ego driven, being one of the only females in a male dominated world, paving the way, pioneering it for many women, because women are like, yeah, cheering me on, that's so amazing. But at the end of the day, did it really fill me up? Maybe not, and it got into it's all about in the headspace. When I had the tragedy, it got me into the heart space. And that tragedy was discovering our baby boy in the pool, as many of you probably already know, and getting over myself and tuning into the heart to be able to pull myself together enough in the being the perfectly imperfect person that I am, but in the absolute chaos to be able to save him and having that message going out to the world as to everything we need is within us. And if we stop for a moment, breathe, hug trees, meditate, that's the things that woke me up. That's the things that allowed me to discover him sadly floating in our pool. And it was the thing that allowed me to give me the strength to do anything to save his life. And it's just, that's the most important thing. That's what's woken me up. And that's what's allowed me to see the purpose, to be able to stir the soul of others, to show them that, we may not know everything in our life right now, but it's okay.
And one of the look, I'm on your page, but one of the things that kind of gets pushed back on me is, so how does hugging trees, how does dropping into the heart, that negative pushback, how did that save your son? Or how did that save you? Like, can you
Mm-hmm.
explain it in a way that makes sense to people who may be where you were when you were back in that corporate male dominated environment?
Absolutely. Because what I noticed, and I had some big aha, big reminders along the journey as well. So here I was working full time as an engineer, married to the most amazing man, had 2 children, pregnant with our third child. That was going to be our last child. And everyone would tell me, oh my goodness, you've got this incredible career, but it no longer fulfilled me. I couldn't see myself working on aircraft as an engineer, like at my age even, or, 65. So I knew I needed change, but I didn't know what it was. So what I decided to do was just way too much. So what I did is I worked full time, studied full time to do a teaching degree, whilst I was raising 2 children and I was pregnant and I got sick. My body told me it was too much. I got 2 autoimmune diseases and it wasn't pretty. And so I had to take the time to overcome that journey as well, which is a whole other story. But what it taught me is when we had our last child, it was a conscious decision for me because I was always busy, a type A personality, have to do this, that, be this for everybody else, be the people pleaser. However, what it caused me to do was take that step back. Whilst this was our last child, it wasn't my opportunity to be busy. It was for me to have that space. So I consciously made the decision, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to hug trees. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to take my shoes off. I'm going to allow my time, my space, the space to heal myself because I needed to do that. I had no idea that what it would do. I just felt compelled to do it. It was a driving force that led me to do it. Yeah, you had a question?
Is that while you were pregnant
So
before the accident?
No, so once I delivered our son, yeah, and we moved to the Gold Coast, we're suddenly in a new area. At the end of that maternity leave, my intention was to go back to the engineering that no longer fulfilled me. So I knew this was our last child. I was already sick. So I actually just used that time to propel myself, to actually smell the roses, to do all of those things. I had no idea, Mel, that I was going to actually do what it did for me. But it opened up my heart so much so, when we did purchase our first home and we were unpacking boxes in the home and we were so excited, and my husband was at Bunnings getting child locks to make sure the house is safe. My only job was to watch our baby. The other kids were being looked after. He was the only one in my sight. So thankfully, my heart just pushed me to open my eyes, lift my head up and see that my little boy was no longer playing with his toys where he was meant to be. My head was kicking in. It was telling me, you know what, maybe he's playing. It was trying to justify. Maybe he's playing with his toys. Maybe he's painting war with your makeup. What would you think? Why would you think anything was wrong? But because I had done the work on myself, unknowingly, it pushed me to go looking. It pushed me to still justify. My head still justified. It didn't cause me to go to where I was led. I still wanted to take out all the rooms, all the boxes. So I went room to room, box to box, trying to find him anywhere I could. And fortunately, it led me to the pool, which then was every parent's worst nightmare. It was suddenly my reality. So that's the whole thing. If I would have been in the busyness of my life, as I always had been, which had already shown me that I'd gotten sick, because disease is disease with the body. Thankfully, I did get sick, because thankfully that pushed me to go more heart-centered, more into my heart, because the heart is actually about 16 times more powerful than the brain. And it allowed me to dismiss the thing that was in my head that was trying to keep me safe and just justify. So thankfully, because after that, I did have to pull myself together, because I was trained in CPR, but let me tell you, it never, ever felt adequate to me. I never felt confident at all, ever, and then all of a sudden it's my flesh and blood. So again, I had to smash that voice and take that big, deep breath in, because I kept on, my head was saying to me, how are you going to tell your husband now? Are you going to tell him that you found your son unconscious and floating while he's in Bunnings getting child locks to make sure your house is safe? It couldn't be in my equation. So thankfully, I took another deep breath in, and I teach all of my clients this. I have a big training company that delivers training all around Australia. Teach all of my clients. It is not just the tools in the box. It's the breathing. It's the mindset tricks that we use to allow us to give us the strength to go above and beyond in any instance of any part of our life, any aspect.
So, because you'd been doing some inner work and recovery work when you were unwell during your pregnancy, you had the ability to be calmer in the emotion when you did discover your son. And then you were able to respond better. And
Absolutely.
therefore, was it a positive outcome? How did your son turn out?
Absolutely. My son is now 18 years of age. He got one of the highest ATARs in Australia last year. He's now doing engineering and business at QUT at university. And all that could have been different had I not have done that, had I not have focused. And as I said, it wasn't something that I knew to do because I was an engineer. It was something that was led divinely, pushing me to do that. And since I've understood the power of, spaces where the magic is, and everyone talks about it, and powerful stories like what I'm witnessing or what I went through absolutely highlights the importance of taking the time to do the daily rituals.
Nice. And so, do you think your mindset has shifted from before you were pregnant into now? Or what is that? What is
So,
that shift?
so it wasn't even during the pregnancy. So during the pregnancy, I was still working as an engineer. So I was still in my busy state. So thankfully, this didn't happen during the pregnancy. This was a conscious thing after I delivered him, after I was diagnosed with my illnesses. I had actively taken 12 months off work, which gave me the space. And usually myself, I would be busy, I would be studying, but instead I actively deferred the degree. I actively took the time out, had the space. And Mel, what is fascinating is because even before that, so I was actually actively doing all of that work. However, we lived in a place in Forest Lake in Brisbane. So this is before we moved to the Gold Coast. And we have family here on the Gold Coast, so we used to come down often. And we went home one weekend. And Forest Lake is like a community. It's like a small town. It's in the city, but it's like just such great community. And we were a big part of that community. So what we witnessed when we drove home were lights on the lake. And we were wondering, we were so curious, why is the lights on the lake? The lights were on the lake because they were dredging the lake. And what they discovered was a little boy. And he was 3 years of age. And he just went with his mum on a picnic that Sunday afternoon. And he went missing just for that moment, just for such a short time, And then they had to dredge the lake and found him. And I realized then what an empath I was then, because I just couldn't understand or comprehend that poor mum's pain. And little did I know that I sucked it up and I literally didn't even have to see her. I felt her pain. And then it was 6 months after that we had our incident. So I teach people that, yes, you can empathize with people. Absolutely. However, it's really important to clear the energy because otherwise we can attract and manifest. Because there's just as much as we manifest things that we really want, we can also manifest the bad things as well.
Yeah, totally agree. It's the focus on what we are, of our thoughts, of our mindset, is a broad topic, but what we are focusing on, what we're thinking, what we are spending our time troubleshooting, reflecting on, that's generally what we will have more of. That is what we are creating a reality around now. One example for me is I don't watch certain styles of movies.
Yeah.
Because they play on me, and I replay the movie, the energies. Certainly, if there's fear or drama, it plays in my system for days.
Yes.
It's hard for me to clear unless I actively do a clearing of my own. It's like, okay, I'm done with that. That does not serve me. But for many who don't even realize that they are that susceptible, and let's put it this way, every human is, that I imagine that essence of that mum's pain that you may have experienced, tapped into, connected with, whatever it was. We're
Mm.
not saying necessarily it was the cause, but it certainly enabled you to have a response maybe that resonated with it on some level. And gee, I'm so glad to hear that you had a different outcome from her.
Yeah, and definitely it wasn't something that immediately I got. It was on reflection later that I went, oh my goodness. Because whatever we go through in our life, we have to take ownership. You know, if someone triggers us, if someone says something that we, don't necessarily like, or, they don't include us, we have to look at ourselves as humans to go, what is it in me that has caused that response? So it was actually on that reflection later on, I'm like teaching clients, and I went, wow. Because a lot of people wanted to know. I literally was a decision. I burnt my boats. The moment I discovered and saved our son, I was meant to go back to my engineering, but it was like, how could I? I have a responsibility to actually get this out there to the world. Thankfully, I had the media. Thankfully, I had the Queensland government. So it was the decision, burn the boats, get this out there. I had no idea what I was doing because I come from engineering, but I didn't need to because everything I needed came to me, including big contracts and stuff like that. So I was literally creating the training, and it wasn't just normal first aid training. It's a lot of mindset thrown in there, utilizing all the lived experiences, because it wasn't just the drowning. I've gone through a lot with my son and let's face it, Mel, when we were children, we had times where our mums would be like, don't do this, and you couldn't understand what she's talking about. I remember my brother putting me on a Tonka truck, rolling me down this driveway, and the end of the road was a busy road. Can't see the danger. Let's face it. We don't have fear as kids. We're very curious. And so when I look at the whole experience and what Carson would have experienced himself, he would have gone, Mum's busy, but there's a pool there. Do I need my swimmers on? Nah, I don't need my swimmers on. She's busy. Is it a cold day? Doesn't matter. And he did whatever it took to get into the pool. And that's with any kind of thing that we experience in our life. Often we put up fears and walls ourselves as we get older. But, it's about letting go those fears and just having a go anyway, and absolutely understanding that tuning into your heart space will wake you up if you need it, if there is a problem, if there's something that you need to go and assist on, rather than living in that fear and holding yourself back.
Mm. Yeah, that's so cool. It's it's life happening for us versus
Always.
life happening to us. Doesn't make it easy sometimes in the moments,
No.
in
And
those
yeah,
reflections.
you can go through and reflect the dot to dot of your life, and can see the journey. You can see, oh my goodness, that happened because of this and this and this, and the wisdom and the knowledge that is gained from those things is just absolutely incredible. Yeah, I know myself, being a mum of 3 beautiful children, a book that I'm going to be writing is Unconditional Love, A Mother's Journey, because each one of my children have had major health complications or tragedies. And then I start to wonder and question, what is it that I'm putting out there? Or, like, I am the mum going through the pain, because even though it's them experiencing it, as a mum, like, it's awful to experience something like that. So I understand the importance of doing the healing work myself and immersing in that kind of environment to clear any patterns, because we are beings, we're souls, we're spirits living here in this time, living an earth experience. And so some of the things that we do go through show us the strengths that we do have, and also the lessons that we need to learn, but can also be ancestral stuff as well. So it's all those lessons and the wisdom. And for me now, I don't know about you, but I absolutely see the beauty in everything. When things happen, I'm very optimistic and I'm very good at overcoming. However, I'm tired and I'm worn out from all the things that, I've had to face with my children. And I understand and I own the whole ancestral thing. And so for me, I'm up leveling even more, because I know that it will benefit so many people so much more. by me immersing, going away from the world for 3 weeks to fully immerse and to clear any patterns and remnants that are there so that, the tragedies can stop. And all the lessons that I learned from that, I can help so many other people.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I described my life. Well, I'll back up. I was having a planning session with my brand photographer, Louise Williams, and she asked this very profound question of what are the pivotal moments of your life that have led you to this point today?
Mm.
And it took us several hours to go through all of those points, those decisions, those why forks in the road where I could have gone left or I could have gone right. And those that had massive impact and those that were subtle at the time, but actually, as you say, you look back and they lead that pathway.
Yeah.
And I just boiled it down to three. But I think every human has some element of trauma, pain, suffering, struggle. I think that's the point of us being here. I think if people say, what's the meaning of life? My answer is to learn something so fundamental in our soul that we've either forgotten, been disconnected, or has been overridden.
Yeah.
You say ancestrally, or past lives, or whatever reason, but I believe our soul has chosen its form of suffering. This is the poison I'm going to take in this lifetime, and coming to terms, accepting and recognizing that it happened for me. That's my philosophy of life. I know that doesn't land with everyone, and that's okay. I'm not trying to convert anyone, but my look back of those three traumas, those three trifectors, have absolutely shaped this awesome view I have of life and my existence now.
Yes.
And they're traumas that most people really struggle and can't, I air quote, let go of. But when I was able to, the surrender of, oh, that's what I'm here on earth to learn from, life got so much easier.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I love how you mentioned that, your soul's purpose. And, like even with your children, for those that have children, the sacred covenant, you actually choose each other's souls for the lessons that you need to learn. And you question, saying, what am I learning here with this particular child? Maybe it's patience.
Exactly.
We're definitely on this road to learn, evolve, grow, and to help so many people as a result.
Yeah. And I think I was just helping somebody this week with that question of what's my mission? What's my vision? What's my meaning of life? And it's like, look, there's one really simple answer, but I'm not going to give it to you. I want you to work this out for yourself. And we did a little activity. And ultimately, it comes back to love in some form.
Yeah.
I believe our struggle, our challenge, our hardships help us to understand what love and how we are going to help others through any form of service reconnect with what their demonstration of love is, what
Yes.
love means to them, and how they can help others with that form and expression of love. Because I know when I first came into the life coaching space as a client, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, listen to your heart, drop into your heart, get out of your head. I could not understand what that meant. What do you mean I'm in my head? But now that I have understood that, years later, I look back and I go, I'm so disconnected to life. I was only connected to work, money, and materialism.
Yeah.
I understood those things very deeply. Connection, strong. But understanding even how I'd done Buddhism before then. but
Mm.
even understanding that everything, if I surrender to anything and everything, I have all of that and more. So that manifestation and abundance, I didn't understand what any of that language meant
Mm.
practically, tangibly in my day-to-day life.
Yes, and it is brings it back to balance, doesn't it? You know, that whole balance is trying to get that work-life balance. And I know for a long time when I did have, you know, and I became this woman on a mission, and I was replacing a whole income and I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember I was just so passionate, you know, I didn't need to sleep. I literally wasn't
Yeah.
sleeping. I was raising children as well, but on, you know, maybe 1 or 2 hours a night, you know, and I was functioning well, but it was that response, you know, the sympathetic response, and realizing that adrenaline, and you cannot continue to live in that high speed lifestyle for a long time because everything has cause and effect. So now it's like bringing back that parasympathetic system to remind us, you know, breathe, breathe.
And actually, you'll be more efficient when you take a few minutes out for yourself to
Oh,
relax, to breathe, as you say, to switch off the necessity to be on, to
yes,
be to drop the mantle a little bit of that superpower. I can freaking keep going and just enjoy the moment without any self pressure.
exactly. And that, what a freedom that is, what a blessing that is, just to be able to take that moment, just to spend the time to appreciate, you know?
When I speak to people about, that A type personality and uh,
Mm,
the, the 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 pride between being able to burn the candle at both ends and manage lots of tasks at once, all that stuff. I get it because I'm kind of in it a little bit at the moment.
mm,
But that's not to say I don't take time out and
yeah,
recognize that by taking time out for me, it's just going for a walk in the sun, particularly.
yeah,
That actually energizes me and I'm more clear headed, more thoughts come to me when I'm on that walk. So I'm more productive when I come back to my desk. So taking time out
mm-hmm,
actually helps me be more productive. You don't need hacks for productivity. You
no,
probably just need more time out, more quietness, more moments to allow your wisdom, your thoughts, the quieter thoughts to filter through the noise, the must do's, can't do's, should do's,
and
not
to
possible.
understand also that everything is in its time. We can't move it forward, like as in the head we're thinking, but it's in the heart. You know, last year we had a very full-on year. We nearly lost our daughter 3 times in the hospital through negligence. And, you know, there is a system in the hospital where you can put in complaints. No one usually does, or maybe it goes on deaf ears. And so during that process, we had to call Ryan's Rule, or I had to call Ryan's Rule. My daughter is a clinical practitioner herself, so she's a skilled medical expert herself, but has had to endure ill health for a long time. We've been fighting to keep her alive. But when it was the negligence and we spoke up, or I spoke up, and it felt like I wasn't feeling heard or valued, it was so frustrating. So I continued to follow up, but nothing happened. So what I did is what you just said. And I didn't realize the importance or the significance of it, but it was absolutely the miracle that happened afterwards. So my husband and I went to Tasmania and we embarked on the overland track, which was 7 days in Tasmania, carrying a 20-kilo pack. And every single night was just so amazing. I was having these incredible dreams. And, you know, it's forest bathing. Literally, you know, everything we needed was within our pack. And so we had tents and we lived off the land and everything. And I didn't realize the importance of it until we got back. The moment I got back, there was a letter to say we'd love to welcome you to a board meeting with the Gold Coast, with the head of the Gold Coast University Hospital and all the staff for my husband and I to join in. and they gave us the opportunity to share what we'd experienced. And then they acknowledged that they stuffed up. Then they formally apologized. And then they changed the laws in that space.
Wow.
Do you know, that was hard. That was difficult, the frustration leading up to that. But now I see the miracle of what you've just mentioned, the sunshine, the nature, being out, surrendering, letting go, understanding that everything is in divine timing and you cannot push it beforehand. You just got to trust and have faith that the divine energy will flow through at the right time. And if it's meant to be, it will be.
Yeah, and one of the roles I see myself performing in this existence is being a bridge between that logical and the spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that language of divine timing used to really grate against me. I'm like, whatever. But another way I describe it for the logical thinkers is it's flow, and nothing ever is standing still. The cycles, the oceans, tidal, it looks flat, but there's a constant tidal movement going on. And when I was able to appreciate that stuff is happening around us, we're just not aware of it.
Yeah.
And what happened was I was on a train going to work because I traveled from Kumara to the city for my job. And I just had this epiphany of everybody on the outside, or when, at that point on the highway, was moving at their pace.
Mm-hmm.
And I was moving at the train's pace. And then there were people moving up and down the train, moving at their pace. And there was this like matrix moment where I'm like, everybody is moving differently in the same point of time, which
Yes.
was 11 o'clock or 12. That point of time,
Yeah.
everybody is shifting differently. And so when I think now about explaining, it's coming to you. Love, you're single, they're coming to you. You just can't see them right now, but they're moving, they're working their life, they're coming to you. Take all the spiritual out of it. They're just on a different timeline, and you're gonna cross paths. The money, the wealth, the success, the next stage, whatever it is we're reaching for, it is moving, just in a different thing that we can't see.
Yes. Yeah. And at that perfect time, the synchronicity occurs where it's no mistake. You bump into the person, you drop your books, you do whatever, and you go, wow.
That's the meet
Grace.
cute.
Grace. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Very cool. And coming back to what you said at the start around that pull towards being pulled towards the pool where your son was.
Yeah.
And that is what I help, again, in a tangible way, that gut instinct, that intuitive knowing that that's where you wanted to be. Although you weren't fully tuned into it because you were checking the other rooms, it wasn't an instinct of, I need to check the pool first.
Actually, no, it was.
Oh, tell me.
No, it was a pulling to that area. However, my head was justifying, saying,
Right.
there's no splash, there's no scream. And actually, Mel, I wanted to clarify that and clear that up, because a lot of parents assume, because a lot of people go, you know what, first aid's not sexy, CPR's not sexy. Oh, my husband's trained, or blah, blah, blah. Or I watch my children, right? It's like throwing egg in my face. I watch my children. I'm one of the most proactive parents. My child was learning to swim from 6 weeks of age. That wasn't adequate. Do you know what I mean? Kids
Yeah.
will be kids. And often people say, oh, I have the intuition. Okay. So why is the drowning stats out of control? Drowning stats are way out of control, even more so than domestic violence.
Really? I didn't know that.
The lives that have been lost is phenomenal. And let me tell you, it's all preventable.
Of course.
But, and even banging my tambourine over the years, it's been 16, 17 years now. One of my products, I got into Big W, and it was something that I created, and everyone was like, oh my goodness, it's so amazing. You should be so proud. It cost me an absolute fortune, and no one was buying it in this country. Other countries, yes. But in our country, Everyone was so blasé to say, oh no, I'll watch my children.
Is that
So,
right?
yes, so every time there was a drowning event, usually the media get me involved. I'm like the drowning expert here on the Gold Coast. And it was like, oh my goodness, it was just, I just had to say to them, I can't do this anymore. And all of the products that we created that weren't being sold, I donated to Pool Works so that when people purchased pools, they had something tangible to give them. Because it was, to me, I had them even moving to this beautiful property that we live. I had them in the shed, and it was like, what good are those in the shed? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so that's why I just wanted to correct that, because people just assume, hey, intuition will kick in. And yes, 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 I had that feeling. However, it wasn't because I ramped it up. It wasn't until I ramped it up with the breath work. Because just as much as the chaos was happening, my head was creating stories. I need to get back to me, to my soul, to find out, to actually get the outcome that I needed, that I desired, not the chaos and perturbation, because otherwise he just would not be with me right now. The
Absolutely.
power of the whole thing. And I see this throughout different other experiences. There's another really powerful experience that I'd love to share. And it's just a really beautiful thing on mindset and how powerful it is. And this is way before the drowning incident, way before my son was even a thought. It was, my husband and I worked on aircraft, and I was proud of what I did. And the SAS, the military, they're like the toughest guys that you know. And so I used to service their aircraft, look after their aircraft, and they came to thank me one day, and they said, we want to give you this opportunity, that not many people get to do, but just in appreciation for the wonderful work that you do to make sure that our aircraft's always ready to fly. And I went, oh yeah, what is it? And it was 144 SAS soldiers and me representing the females, right, on embarking on a journey in Kokoda, in New Guinea, on the Kokoda Trail. It's one of the hardest walks in the world. And it was 2 weeks away. So I didn't have a lot of time. My husband was away. I was raising 2 children. I was working full time. I was studying full time. So I didn't have much time, but I got a babysitter overnight time to look after the children so I could throw some kind of pack on and train. And then I went and I was on the plane. And on the plane over there, all of a sudden I had time. Before that, I had no time to even think about anything. I just was action orientated. This time allowed me to go, and then it started creating stories. These stories were, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? You're doing this journey, oh my goodness, with these 144 of the toughest guys in the world, and you're representing the females. And it was such a definitive moment. It wasn't, what if you go over on your ankle with this 25-kilo pack that you're carrying? It was like, what are you going to do then? It was so definitive. This is what's going to happen. And then it was like, what are you going to do then? And I was like, oh my goodness, the helicopter's going to have to come pick me up in the jungle. And then I'm going to be all over the TV as the woman that let down the other females. And the story just went on and on and on. So day 4, guess what happened? Day 4, like literally on the first day taking off, I was a little bit overwhelmed because these guys are pack marching, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, how can I keep up? But as the day went on, they couldn't continue. They kept on breaking off and breaking off. So that gave me the strength to know I could do this. It's tough, but I can do this. So day 4 comes along, and I'd already gotten to day 4, which was pretty amazing, almost halfway. However, I did go over on my ankle with my 25-kilo pack. And I did hurt myself. I did sprain my ankle. I didn't have ice with me. Resting, I wasn't going to be resting because of with the toughest guys in the world. Compression, all I had was my boot. I'm going to leave it on because I didn't have many other clothes to carry, because everything I had to carry. So you take limited supplies with you. So I made the decision, leave my boot on, and I elevated for a while. But the most important thing I did was change the story. Tony Robbins says it all the time. I'm one of his senior leaders, and he says, change your story, change your life. But this is way before I'd met him. I literally went, okay, changed the story. I've gone on my ankle. I'm not going to bring the TV crews in. I'm not going to bring the helicopters. All that's not going to happen. But what I am going to do is send the energy to where I'm going to go, to the finish line, and calling my wonderful husband to say, guess what? One of the hardest walks in the world I've just achieved. And that's exactly what manifested. That's exactly what came as a result. And that was just the flick of the switch from our mindset. And that's how powerful it is.
Cool. Great story. Thank you. Okay. I am just about out of time.
Yes, awesome. Well, it was lovely having the time with you and seeing all the synergies and, you know, what we do see together, similarities as well as to how we're living our lives. And I'm sure someone will benefit from these stories somewhere.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. I will.